Welcome to Santa's studio. Santa's studio here on my YouTube channel. I normally broadcast live on my Facebook channel, I Believe in Santa Ho Ho Ho. But I'm also broadcasting sometimes live as I read as part of my new series, Santa Reads, a variety of different children's stories for Christmas and the holidays. And so I welcome you to listen in and to watch as I'll read various books for you, children, adults, whoever needs to connect with Santa during this season or year-round. Santa's Studio, Santa Reads. You can watch these episodes anytime you like on Santa's YouTube channel, Santa Jeff Claus. Again, welcome. For those of you who have not been with us before, Santa is now in season 2, I think episode 4 of his live broadcasts. But these videos of Santa Reads are just me reading stories. They're not my normal kind of broadcast where I tell Santa tales, I read a story, I answer your questions, and extend birthday greetings, and so on and so forth. This story that I'll be reading tonight is one I think that I read, in the last episode, last Saturday. It's good to see you. I'm happy that you're joining us here from the North Pole. If you're new to watching Santa, behind me is a part of Santa's studio. Christmas tree, a glowing fireplace. You can see the North Pole out here in the background. The reindeer are going on a test flight and are now crossing the moon. If you look closely, you can kind of see maybe a photograph of Santa in the background as well. Let's get started. Today's story, we talked about various cultures and how they celebrate the holidays. We talked about Thanksgiving, I think, last week. And so I'm going to read a story called Too Many Tamales. You can kind of see mom and daughter and a big plate full of tamales. It's a wonderful story. Ed Martinez did the illustrations. Gary Soto is the author. Snow drifted through the streets, and now that it was dusk, Christmas trees glittered in the windows. You see? Do you like art? Maybe you could make your job out of creating art for books. Maria moved her nose off of the glass window and came back to the counter in the kitchen. She was acting grown-up now, helping her mother make tamales. This was a tradition in their family. Their hands were sticky with masa. Masa is kind of like a wet flour, but kind of grainier. That's very good, her mother said. Maria happily kneaded the masa. She felt grown up, wearing her mother's apron. Her mom had even let her wear lipstick and perfume. If only I could wear mother's ring, she thought to herself. See them? What ring, I think, is she talking about? Maria's mother had placed her diamond ring. I see it, look. Can you see it? Down there on the corner. Mother had placed her diamond ring on the table. She loved that ring, Maria did. She loved how it sparkled like their Christmas tree lights. When her mother left the kitchen to answer the telephone, Maria couldn't help herself. She wiped her hands on her apron and she looked back at the door to see if Mama was coming back. I'll wear the ring for just a minute, she said to herself. The ring sparkled on her thumb. Maria returned to kneading the masa, her hands pumping up and down. On her thumb, the ring all of a sudden disappeared. Then it reappeared somewhere in the sticky dough. Her mother returned and took the bowl from her. Go get your father now for this part, she said. And then the three of them together began to spread glops of the masa dough onto corn husks. Corn husks are those green leaves that surround a cob of corn that you might buy at a store. Maria's father helped by plopping a spoonful of meat into the center and folding the husk over the glop of dough. He then placed them in a large pot on the stove. They made 24 tamales as the windows grew white with delicious smelling curls of steam. But wait, where's the ring? A few hours later, the family came over with arms full of bright presents. Her grandparents, her nieces, aunts and uncles, her cousins Dolores and Teresa, and little Danny. Maria kissed everyone hello, and then she grabbed Dolores by the arm and took her upstairs to play with the other cousins, tagging along. They cut out pictures, played with dolls, enjoyed their toys, and were hoping for more toys to be under the Christmas tree. As Maria was snipping a picture of a pearl necklace out of an advertisement, a shock all of a sudden spread across her face. The ring, she screamed. Everyone stared at her. What are you talking about? What ring? Dolores, her cousin, asked. Without answering, Maria ran for the stairs. Uh-oh, I think there's trouble coming. The steaming tamales were piled high on a platter for their guests. The ring is inside one of the tamales, she thought to herself. It must have come off when I was kneading the masa dough. Dolores, Teresa, and Danny skidded into the kitchen behind her. Help me, Maria cried. They looked at each other. Danny piped up first. What do you want us to do? Eat them, she said. If you bite something hard, tell me. Boy, that's a lot of tamales. The four of the kids started eating. They ripped off the husks and bit into them. The first one was good. The second one was pretty good. But by the third tamale, they were getting tired of the taste. Keep eating, Maria scolded. Corn husks began to litter the floor. Their stomachs were stretched until they hurt. But the cousins kept eating until there was only one tamale left. You mean they had eaten 23 tamales and not found the ring? Oh, goodness gracious. This must be it, she said. The ring must be in that one right there. We'll each take a bite. You go first, Daddy. Danny was the youngest, so he didn't argue. He usually did what he was told. He took a bite. Nothing. Dolores took a bite. Nothing. Teresa took a big bite. Still, nothing. It was Maria's turn. It had to be in this bite. Maria took a deep breath and slowly, carefully, she bit into the last mouthful of tamale. Nothing? Oh no. Didn't any of you bite something hard? Maria asked. Danny frowned. I think I swallowed something hard. Swallowed it? Maria cried. Her eyes were now big with worry. She looked inside his mouth. Teresa said, I didn't bite anything hard, but I think I'm sick. I'm sick of tamales. She held her stomach with both hands. She wanted to throw herself onto the floor, Maria did, and just cry. That was a very expensive ring. Mother's diamond ring. It was now probably in her little cousin's tummy. How in the world should she tell her mother? Or maybe she won't tell her mother. But you have to, her little voice inside said. Maria was an honest little girl and always usually did what was right. She knew she had to tell her mama. So she ran down the stairs and she saw her mama sitting among her guests in the living room, on the couch in the living room. They were chattering so loudly, Maria didn't know how to interrupt her mother. She'd always been told, don't interrupt. Eventually, she signaled for her mama to come aside. Mama and Maria sat down together, and Maria started telling Mama the story. Do you see what I see? Mama's diamond ring is on her finger. What's the matter? Her mother asked. She took Maria's hand. I did something wrong, Maria sobbed. What? Her mother asked. Maria thought about the beautiful ring that was now sitting inside Danny's belly, and she got ready to confess to Mama. Then she gasped. The ring was on Mother's finger, bright as ever. The ring, Maria screamed. Maria's mother scraped off a flake of dried masa. You were playing with it? She said, gently smiling. I wanted to wear it. And when you left the room, I thought I would just put it on my finger for just a moment. And then it disappeared in the masa dough. She told them all about the tamale story and making them as people gathered round. Her mother moved the ring a little bit on her finger. It winked a silvery light. Maria looked up, and Aunt Rosa winked at her too. Well, it looks like we all have to cook another batch of tamales, Rosa said cheerfully. Maria held her full stomach. She was now sick of tamales. As everyone filed into the kitchen, joking and laughing, at first Maria felt like crying as she needed a great big bowl of masa next to Aunt Rosa. As she pumped her hands up and down, a leftover tear fell from her cheek into the bowl, and for just a second it sat there before it disappeared like a sparkling jewel, just like Mama's ring. Then Rosa nudged her with her elbow and said, "Hey, Nina, it's not so bad. Everyone knows that the second batch of tamales always tastes better than the first, right?" When Dolores, Teresa, and Danny heard that from the other side of the room, they all groaned as they told the story of how they ate all of the 24 tamales trying to find Mama's diamond ring. Well, Mama kept her ring on her hand for this mixing of the masa and making of the tamales. Then Maria couldn't help herself. She finally chuckled and laughed, and pretty soon everyone was laughing, including her mother. And when Maria put her hands back into the bowl of masa, the leftover tear was gone. Too Many Tamales, a wonderful story of a family tradition and a little girl who probably shouldn't have borrowed that ring and lost it for just a second. Would you like another story? I'm gonna see here. Hello, Wanda. It's good to see you. Hello, Kayla. Hello, Kristen. Hello, Jeremy. I can't see the screen very well. It's good to see all of you. I can't figure out how to get my hat on here straight. It's good to see you. The next story is one that we read several weeks ago. It's called Mr. Willoughby's Christmas Tree. I think after this story, I'll be ending this video before it gets too long. And then I'm going to have one of my tech helper elves come and move these episodes of storytelling somewhere else on to our computers. And then I'll be back in about 5 minutes after I finish this story. Good to see you too, Wanda. Mr. Willoughby's Christmas Tree. Now, I just showed you the top. Do you see how the tree is hitting the ceiling? But look how tall that tree is. Do you see them at the bottom? Mr. Willoughby and his helper. This is a story by Robert Barry. It's a wonderful story. Do you see? Cut down the tree, loaded it into, let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Loaded it into the back of the truck. and it was going to be a special delivery for Mr. Willoughby. Mr. Willoughby's Christmas tree came by special delivery, full and fresh and glistening green, the biggest tree that he had ever seen. Now look at Mr. Willoughby. I'll tell you, that house is a lot bigger than Santa's house. It looks like a mansion, doesn't it? The truck pulled up in front of the house. He dashed upstairs, the gardener who had cut down the tree, and he was there to open the door. This was a moment he had waited for, the delivery of their annual beautiful Christmas tree. "It's a magnificent tree. It's splendid," he cried. "Please, sir, won't you carry it right inside? I think it might look best this year right in the corner of the parlor, over this way." There's Mr. Willoughby and the gentleman carrying it inside. Even though Santa lives in a forest, he likes the trees in the forest to continue living. They're like families to Santa. And so Santa doesn't like to chop down any trees for the workshop or for his studio here. You'll notice this tree, it's not a real living tree that we chop down. No, it's a fake tree made out of materials. And this little tree right here, that's not a real living tree at all. Outside, there are millions of trees in Santa's forest of the North Woods. Mr. Willoughby and his big, giant tree. I'm confused. Why does one man need such a big tree? But once the tree stood in its place in the corner of the parlor, Mr. Willoughby made a terrible face. That's not the right place, is it? The tree touched the ceiling, then bent like a bow at the very top where it hit the ceiling. "Oh, good heavens," he gasped. "Something must go." Do you see the top? That's the picture that's on the front of the story, isn't it? What's going to go? Oh my goodness. Do you see what I see? Baxter climbed the ladder and chopped off the tippy top portion. Baxter the butler was called on in haste to chop off the top, though it seemed quite a waste. "That's great," Mr. Willoughby cried with glee. "Now we can start to trim my tree." Now Baxter's trimming by cutting, but trim also means to decorate. Do you get a tree and do you decorate? Do you trim your tree? When the trimming was well underway, the top was placed on a silver tray. Baxter said, "I know just who would be delighted with his Christmas tree." So he climbed the stairs with his silver tray, and he went upstairs to Miss Adelaide, Mr. Willoughby's upstairs maid. See? There he is. Oh, can you see that? And he goes upstairs, and there is Miss Adelaide. He's presenting her with the tippy-top portion of the tree. "Won't this tree be a pretty sight when I have trimmed it later tonight? But the top, oh dear, I'm so afraid, will have to be cut. sighed Miss Adelaide. And so with scissors, sharp and long, she snipped off the top while she hummed a song. The top was set out of the very next day in back of the house to be thrown away. You see? Her tree is hitting the ceiling as well. And there she is, snipping off the very top portion. Look at it. See it? And she's going to put it outside in the trash. That little treetop caught the eye of Tim, the gardener passing by. He certainly was not about to see that little tree thrown out. You see Tim, the gardener? He sees it right there in the trash. Tim's got his wheelbarrow. He hurried home straight away to see what Mrs. Tim would say. Fa-la-la-la-la. Surprise, surprise. His wife could not believe her eyes. But our house, she said, is so snug and small, I do not believe that we need it all. And before Tim had a chance to shout, she cut off the top and threw it out. Can you see? There he is rushing home. I didn't know that a little top of a tree could do so much good. Everyone seems to be taking their own little bit and throwing it out. Barnaby Bear was padding by. It almost hit him in the eye. Now, who would throw a tree away so very close to Christmas Day? I will take it home. That's what I'll do. Look, Mama Bear, I've got a present for you. Look, he finds a bit. And he takes it home. And there's Mrs. Bear peeking out of their little home in their den in a tree. Isn't it a pretty tree? Yawned Barnaby, quite drowsily. But Little Bear, standing off afar, cried out, "That tree just won't hold a star." Barnaby said, "Let's cut a hunk off of the bottom, here at the trunk." But Mama Bear just shook her head and sliced the treetop off instead. Look. Daddy wanted to take a bit off of the bottom, but before he knew it, they'd snipped off a bit off the top. Goodness gracious. Later on that frosty night, Frisky Fox came into sight. He spied the treetop, rubbed his chin, opened his sack, and stuffed the top in. Do you see the fox in the little tiny bit? He scampered home and jumped his gate. This Christmas present just couldn't wait. It's even better than mincemeat pie, said Mrs. Fox with a happy sigh. Then the foxes saw that their Christmas prize was just a wee bit oversized. There, my dears, don't you worry. I will fix this top now in a hurry. Oh my goodness, all of the creatures of the forest. Benjamin Rabbit found it then, just outside the fox's den. It seems, he thought, most certainly, Santa left that for my family. Look, he cried, the tree I have found. With that he called his family around. Then there was a merrymaking, a rollicking and a frolicking, carrot-shaking celebration around that little bit of a tree. All were as happy as rabbits can be. Do you see? That's a lot of rabbits, huh? Oh, and they have carrots, I'm seeing. Benjamin Rabbit, with his very own hand, sliced a carrot and made a stand. Now, let's see how this tree will look in our little chimney nook. But right away the children cried, "Look, it's leaning off to one side. It's too tall." "That is all," said Mrs. Rabbit, and as though it were a summer carrot, she gave it a chop and threw away the top. Where can I see? Can you see the top? A little bit that she threw away. There it is, right down there. You see it? Sometimes it's hard for Santa to read these stories when I can't see myself on the camera. Then Mistletoe Mouse just happened to see that tiny, tiny tip of a Christmas tree. He pulled it through the snow and the ice, up some stairs. He fell down twice. At last, he reached his cozy house. "It's just the right size," said Mrs. Mouse. Then at the top, if you please, they put a star made out of cheese. Isn't that what mice eat? See? He finds the little tippy top. He takes it home, falling twice. And there at the bottom, you can see that they put a top on made out of cheese. Wasn't it grand to have a tree exactly like Mr. Willoughby? And look, there he is. Can you see closely? That little bit off the top of his tree made so many creatures of the forest happy. And can you see? There's the mouse family enjoying their Christmas tree. The spirit of giving. Even though Mr. Willoughby had that big, big mansion, he shared, didn't he? He didn't know that he was sharing, but everybody else knew how to share in their own special way. Mr. Willoughby's Christmas tree. In a few minutes, I will return with more stories that I'll read for you. So take a little break. I'll be right back.